Hi, I'm Ron Bateman, the Sheriff of Anne Arundel County. Welcome to your Anne Arundel's Most Wanted program, a program where we showcase wanted criminals, highlight open cases, and look to you for tips. You, concerned citizens that share my same goal, and that's keeping our communities safe. You'd be proud to know that your calls have allowed us to put handcuffs on thousands of criminals. So sit back, set your DVR, or grab a pen and paper, and help do your part in catching criminals. You're watching Anne Arundel's Most Wanted. Welcome to this month's Anne Arundel's Most Wanted. This month, we are at the Anne Arundel County Police Training Academy in Davisonville, Maryland, and we have a great show in store for you this month. With me is the commander of the Training Academy, Lieutenant Dan Rodriguez. Welcome to the show, Dan.
Thank you, Sheriff.
So before we get started about this facility and what we're going to do today, talk about a little bit about you. How long have you been with the agency?
I've been with the agency for 20 years, prior service with Prince George's County Police Department, 26 years of law enforcement service.
Good deal. And some of your assignments since you've been with the county police?
Since I've been with the county police, I've worked a variety of different assignments. I worked in patrol in both the eastern and southern districts. I worked narcotics interdiction. I worked as the chief's adjutant. I was assigned as an instructor at the training academy, as well as I served about 12 years as a team leader with the agency's special operations section, the tactical team.
Absolutely. Now, how long have you been the commander down here?
I've been the commander of the academy for about 2 years now.
It's a cool place, isn't it?
Oh, yes.
Now, I went here as a young recruit in 1983. This place has been here a long time. So let's get into that. How old is this place, and what's in store for it?
Well, the facility was built in 1954. It was built as a Nike missile base, which was run by the United States Army at the time. The base was designed as an air defense site for DC, for the metropolitan area during the Cold War. Once the base system became obsolete in the 60s, in 1975, the property was transferred over to the Department of Education. At that point, the Department of Education allowed the county police department to assume leasing the facility for $1 a year, and in 1976, the first academy class came through and graduated. The facility was actually constructed and built by the recruit class and the staff that was in place at that time.
Wow, I know when I went here, I was told that the Army kind of disassembled everything so the silo wouldn't open up where the missiles used to come out at, and Officer Richardson put it all back together, and everything was in working order by the time he was here for a few months.
Actually, yes. The silos all work. The hydraulic elevators they actually do still work, but we don't utilize the silos anymore. But they were utilized for training, for the gym facilities, and for tactical training.
Yeah, a lot of history here.
Absolutely.
So a lot of agencies use this facility besides the Anne Arundel County Police. Let's talk to the audience about that.
Well, the facility is used by approximately 14 local agencies, and a variety of different federal agencies utilize the facility on a part-time basis. The facility is used by our department, it's utilized by the detention center, it's used by your sheriff's department, it's utilized by the FBI, it's utilized by multiple agencies. State police does some training out here. So the facility is regularly used for training for probably well over 1,500 police officers in the state of Maryland and the federal government.
That's great. It's because of relationships like that. It keeps all of us together. It helps the communication process when we need each other for a variety of operations. So that's cool. So you got good news. So tell the audience what's going to happen to this facility now.
Well, the facility is going to be replaced, long overdue. It's been in existence, as we said, since the 50s, so the buildings are starting to deteriorate. The grounds were not actually built to be a police academy. They were built to be a Nike missile base.
Right.
So the county has funded the building of the new academy. In fiscal year 16, we're going to have a funding for the design and architectural survey for the facility, and in 2017 there'll be $10 million that are allocated to build a brand new police academy.
Can't wait to see that.
Oh, me either.
It's long overdue. Hopefully you'll still be here.
Hopefully.
So we're going to do the Most Wanted show down here, and we're also going to show the audience the firearms section up top of the hill here, your range, and go through some scenarios with my deputies. But first, the Most Wanted. Who'd you bring for us?
Oh, I brought three for you today, Sheriff. And the ones that we brought with you today is, first one we have is Stephen Matthew Greenwell Jr. Stephen is a white male. He's age 26. He's 5'3", 125 pounds. He is wanted for a violation of probation on an original charge of CDS. His last known area where he resided was in Shadyside, specifically at 1306 Juniper Street in Shadyside. The second individual who we're looking for is Jamalo Edward Coates. He is a black male, age 22. His height is 5'10", 140 pounds. He is also wanted on an offense for violation of probation with original charge of possession with intent to distribute CDS. His last address was 410 Hilltop Lane in Annapolis, Maryland. The third and final individual who we're looking for is a Jarrell Kess. Jarrell Kess is a black male. His date of birth is 9/8/1989. He's 6 foot, 180 pounds. He is also wanted for a violation of probation with an original charge of possession with intent to distribute CDS.
Very good. Folks, you know the drill. If you know the whereabouts of any of those individuals, do not approach them. Instead, call that number on the screen, 410-222-1490 or 911, 24 hours a day. Keep those calls coming in, folks, as their tips are definitely paying off. Lieutenant, thank you very much. Great job.
You're welcome, Sheriff.
Now, of course, everyone recognizes our next guest, Corporal Ame Meegan with the Annapolis Police Department. Welcome back to the show, Amy.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Who'd you bring for us?
I've got 4 today. The first one is Louise Bowery, also known as Ms. Lou. Her date of birth is March 19th of 1961. She's a black female, 4 foot 10 inches tall, weighing 110 pounds, with gray hair and brown eyes. She also has 2 tattoos, one on her left forearm and one on her right arm. Her last known address is 1429 Telegraph Road in Severn, and she has 1 open warrant for theft less than $100. This warrant stems from an incident reported in March of 2013. An Annapolis police officer responded to a home in the 1100 block of Madison Street for a theft that occurred earlier. The victim reported that 5 different prescription medications were stolen from her apartment the night before by a woman known to her. The victim gave the officer a description of the suspect and a nickname. Through investigation, the officer identified Louise Bowery as the suspect in the theft and obtained this arrest warrant for Bowery. Second subject is Victor Manuel Meneses Araya. His date of birth is January 11th, 1976. He's a Hispanic male, 5 foot 6 inches tall, weighing 220 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. His last known address is 185 Clay Street in Annapolis, and he has 2 open warrants. The first one's for failing to appear in court for driving while intoxicated charges. The second one's for failing to appear in court for driving while suspended charges. In the first warrant, the officer observed a Nissan drive through the stop sign at Chesapeake Avenue and Bay Ridge Avenue without stopping or slowing down. The officer followed the vehicle and stopped it. The driver was identified as Victor Meneses. The officer smelled a strong odor of alcoholic beverage coming from his person, and he said he had drunk 4 beers. Meneses failed to adequately perform standardized field sobriety tests and was arrested for driving while intoxicated. In the second case, the officer observed a Jeep traveling up Main Street, turning onto Francis Street. The vehicle parked on Francis Street. The officer noticed the vehicle had front-end damage. The driver was identified as Victor Meneses. Meneses' driving license was suspended, and he was arrested for driving while suspended. And the third subject we have is Abdallah Mosi Akueme Sims, also known as Mace. His date of birth is May 13th, 1978. He's a black male, 6 foot 5 inches tall, weighing 211 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. He also has a scar under his left eye. His last known address is 32 Heritage Court in Annapolis. He has 2 open warrants with Annapolis, 2 bench warrants, one for failing to appear for possession of marijuana, possession of CDS paraphernalia, and 2 counts of possession of CDS not marijuana charges. And the second warrant is for failing to appear on a driving while suspended charge. He also has 3 additional warrants with the Sheriff's Department. The first warrant stems from a traffic stop that occurred in September of 2014. An Annapolis police officer was conducting routine stop sign enforcement in the area of President Street and Tyler Avenue. The officer observed a Mercury Grand Marquis drive through the stop sign without stopping. The officer stopped the vehicle and identified the driver as Abdallah Sims. While speaking to Sims, the officer noticed a distorted-looking cigar in the center console cup holder. The cigar appeared to have been modified to hold marijuana instead of tobacco. The officer ran Sims's information through MBA, and MBA reported that Sims's driver's license was suspended. The officer arrested Sims for driving while suspended. The officer checked the cigar in the vehicle and found it to contain suspected marijuana. Sims was transported to the police station, and a more thorough search of Sims was conducted. A plastic bag containing 1 bag of suspected heroin and 1 bag of suspected amphetamines was found secreted in Sims's crotch area. Also, $1,490 Sims was carrying and the vehicle he was driving were seized for forfeiture. And the last subject we have is Marianne Elizabeth Graves. Also goes by the names Taylor and Bitsy. Her date of birth is September 18th, 1966. She's a black female, 5 foot 6 inches tall, weighing 169 pounds, with black hair and brown eyes. She also has a pierced nose. Her last known address is 1456 Tyler Avenue in Annapolis, and she has a warrant for driving while suspended and revoked. This warrant stems from an incident in August of 2011. An Annapolis police officer was working an evening traffic detail targeting aggressive drivers in the 900 block of Spa Road. The officer noticed a Dodge Caravan driving towards the traffic detail area with the headlights turned off. The officer stopped the Dodge Caravan and the driver was identified as Marianne Graves. The officer ran the information Graves gave through MBA, and MBA reported that Graves did not have a license. Graves was arrested for driving without a license at that time. After Graves was released, the officer discovered that Graves did in fact have a license under a slightly different name, and MBA reported that Graves's driving privilege was suspended and revoked. The officer obtained this warrant for Graves for driving while suspended and revoked.
Very good. Folks, you know the drill. You know the whereabouts of any of those individuals. Do not approach them. Call that number on the screen, 410-222-1490 or 911 24 hours a day. Amy, thank you very much.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And now our next guest is a regular on our show, Detective Sergeant Jimmy DeLay from the Maryland State Police, Glen Burnie Barrack. Welcome back to the show, my brother.
Thank you, Sheriff.
Who'd you bring for us?
We have 2 for you today. The first is Jose Alexander Ortiz Urrutia. He's a Hispanic male, 45 years old, with a date of birth of 9/11/69, 5 foot 7 inches tall, approximately 180 pounds, with a last known address of 223 Gross Avenue, Annapolis, Maryland. On March 9th of this year at approximately 2:40 a.m., a uniformed trooper was on patrol in the area of eastbound Route 50, just west of Baydale Drive. At that time, he observed a white Toyota truck bearing Maryland registration with a taillight out. This vehicle was also swerving. A traffic stop was initiated and contact was made with the driver, who was identified by his Maryland license. Upon speaking with him, he detected an odor of an alcoholic beverage on his breath and person. He also observed his eyes to be glassy and bloodshot. When Ortiz Urrutia handed him his license, the trooper also noticed that he had a restriction for alcohol. He admitted to consuming alcohol and agreed to step out of the vehicle to perform a series of field sobrieties. He had poor balance and was unable to satisfactorily perform the walk and turn test or the one-leg stand. He was placed under arrest and transported to the Glen Burnie Barrack for further processing. He agreed to a breath test, which resulted in a .11. He failed to obey pretrial conditions and has an active bench warrant related to the DUI offense. Second one I have for you today is Devon Stewart. He's a black male, 36 years old, birthday of January 8th, 1979, 6 foot tall, approximately 200 pounds, with a last known address of 2832 Denham Circle North in Brooklyn, Maryland. On March 19th of this year at approximately 1:40 a.m., a uniformed trooper was in the area of southbound Route 2 and Bonaire Road. At that time, he observed a gray Honda Civic with inoperative tag lights. The trooper activated his emergency equipment and conducted a traffic stop on the vehicle. He then identified the driver through his Maryland identification card as Devon Stewart. While conversing with Stewart, the trooper noticed he was visibly nervous and had trouble finding paperwork he asked for. Stewart advised he did not have a license and was driving to Annapolis to meet his girlfriend. The trooper requested a CDS canine to respond for a scan. The scan was positive and a search of the vehicle and person was conducted. A search of Stewart revealed 6 vials containing crack cocaine. Stewart was taken to the Glen Burnie Barrack for further processing. He failed to appear for court and has an active bench warrant for the CDS and driving on a suspended and revoked license. Stewart also has a second active warrant for failing to appear on a suspended driving offense on June 1st of this year.
Good case on Stewart. Folks, you know the whereabouts of any of those individuals. Do not approach them. Instead, call that number on the screen, 410-222-1490 or 911 24 hours a day. Sergeant, thank you very much, buddy.
Thank you, Sheriff.
And now for those subjects wanted by the Anne Arundel County Sheriff's Office. Let's see, our first subject is Davin F. Hawkins. This subject is wanted on first-degree assault, that would be life-threatening, second-degree assault, which is not life-threatening, and reckless endangerment. On February the 1st, 2015, County Police responded to the Anne Arundel Medical Center for the report of a domestic assault. Upon arrival, they met with the victim, who reported that during a fight with her boyfriend, she was thrown against the wall and had struck her head. The impact caused her body to go limp, and she was unable to brace herself and landed on a chair. Wow. The victim did not immediately seek medical treatment after the incident, and over the following days, she began having headaches, slowly lost her ability to use her left arm and left leg, and eventually lost her unborn child that she was 7 months pregnant with. Ultimately, our victim saw her doctor, checked into the hospital, and underwent brain surgery to address the injuries she had sustained during the fight. The result of the violence reported is tragic and unfortunate. So today, we are looking for Davin F. Hawkins, our bullying boyfriend, who is a 35-year-old black male with a date of birth of September 26, 1979, is 6 feet tall, weighs 200 pounds, and has black hair and brown eyes. His last known address is 1371 Walnut Avenue in Annapolis. Our next subject is Dante O'Neill Miles. This subject is wanted for multiple counts of theft and theft scheme. On January the 18th, 2015, County Police responded to a Circle Drive address for the report of a breaking and entering. There's a bit of a backstory here, so bear with me. It's got an interesting twist. The property manager advised police that the house she was managing was supposed to be empty and that her company was hired by the owner to rent the property while he was away. The property manager went on to say she had been contacted by a prospective renter who said they had originally found the listing on Craigslist, made arrangements with a subject named Richard Florence to move in, and sent $300 via Western Union to a location provided by Mr. Florence. That potential renter never heard back from Florence, so they did some research, found the property's manager listing on Zillow, which is a bona fide real estate website, and then spoke with the manager by phone. After learning of the listing on Craigslist, the manager went to the property and discovered it was being occupied. That's when the cops were called. Turns out the current occupants, a man, a woman, and their 3 small children, had moved in 2 days earlier after renting the property from a subject named, you guessed it, Richard Florence. They also found the listing on Craigslist, met with Florence at the Arundel's Mills Safeway, and gave him $5,000 in cash to cover 3 months' rent and the security deposit. Unbelievable. I am sure you are not shocked to hear that no written contract was signed either. The officer that responded did their due diligence and discovered that Dante Miles had posed as an interested party in renting a property from a rental company. He was able to get the company to provide the lockbox combination and gain access to the keys and home. He made copies of the keys and posted the Circle Drive address on Craigslist under the false name of Richard Florence. Wow. Today, we are looking for Dante O'Neill Miles, who's a 25-year-old black male with a date of birth of September the 20th, 1990. He's 6 foot 9 inches tall, weighs 270 pounds, has black hair and brown eyes, and his last known address is 608 Highview Road in Linthicum Heights. What a story. Our next subject is Larry Eugene Martin. This subject is wanted for theft under $1,000, conspiracy to commit same, and theft under $100. On January the 3rd, 2015, County Police took a theft report from the Glen Burnie Rite Aid. Investigation revealed that Larry Martin and 2 accomplices entered the store, picked up items, and carried them out of the building without paying for them. The items stolen were deodorant and Mucinex medicine. Hardly worth getting a warrant over. On Tuesday, February the 3rd, 2015, County Police responded to the Kohl's store in Severn for a shoplifting complaint. Further investigation revealed Larry Martin and another male entered the store and split up. Martin and his associate removed 2 Remington electric razors from the men's section, ran past the registers, and continued out the front of the store without paying for the merchandise. The court issued another warrant for Larry Martin. The Kohl's romp has different charges as a result of the value of the items stolen and how he participated. So we are looking for Larry Eugene Martin, who's a 29-year-old white male with a date of birth of March 16th, 1986. He's 6 feet tall, weighs 220 pounds, and has brown hair and brown eyes. His last known address is 36 Oak Court in Annapolis. You know the drill, folks. You know the whereabouts of any of those individuals. Do not approach them. Call that number on the screen, 410-222-1490 or 911, 24 hours a day. Keep those calls coming in because your tips are definitely paying off. Now, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, we're going to be at the top of the hill at the firearms range. You're going to like this. Now we're up at the firearms range. Today we're going to meet our training administrator, Mr. Rex Snider. We're also going to meet members of our firearms unit, our Sheriff's Emergency Response Team. You're going to see some of the weapons that my deputies carry and some of the training they receive. Now let's meet Mr. Rex Snider. Rex, welcome to the show, buddy.
Sheriff, thank you for having me.
Tell our audience what we're going to see today.
Basically, we're going to go through some judgmental scenarios, which law enforcement officers go through when they're down here for training. It's real-life scenarios that come to the range in a practice format. We have 3 members of our emergency response team along with their group leader, and we're going to be going through 4 different scenarios to try to give the viewing audience an idea of what we see each time we come down here for judgmental type training.
Judgmental training, decide whether to shoot or not shoot. Is that correct?
Whether to exercise deadly force or to not exercise deadly force.
Very good. So set up our first scenario for the audience.
Today, the first scenario is going to be a transition drill. Deputy Warren Porter is going to come down with his Beretta Storm rifle. He's going to start his exercise with the Beretta Storm rifle. He's going to transition to his Glock 23 to finish things up.
Now, interrupt you. So transition, explain to the audience why a transition may take place.
The deputy enters the building, a structure, a room, and he's making his way through there, confronts an adversary. For whatever reason, he might have a type of malfunction, might have some sort of catastrophic failure, needs to transition from one weapon to the other, has got to do it smoothly, has got to do it effectively and efficiently.
Very good. All right, let's see it. All right, that was a good job with Deputy Warren Porter. What's the next scenario we're going to see?
The next scenario is going to involve Deputy Young Her. He's going to be checking a residence for a wanted subject. When he arrives, he confronts a female outside who advises that her son is inside the residence. He's described as a white male. He's mentally challenged. He is carrying around an airsoft pistol in his waistband because he has an affection for police officers, and he likes to imitate police officers around the house.
So this is a very real-life situation.
Could be. And an important factor that we want to enter into here is the subject that he is looking for that is wanted is a tall, thin black male. Does not match the description of the subject that's inside.
Very good. Let's see it.
Hey, Jason, leave those hands up, pal. Leave them up. You're going to be all right. Just stay there like that. Leave your hands up. You're going to be all right.
So we just saw Deputy Her go through that scenario where he didn't fire his weapon. Explain some of the important points of that scenario.
Well, we saw that as he approached the residence, he took cover. He made sure that he protected himself. He was confronted by the subject, which was vividly described by his mother. He reasoned with him in a way that was not stressful or in any way confrontational, knowing that he was mentally challenged. he was able to almost have a rapport with him, if you will. At the same time, what we're careful to do is to induce stress inoculation with the deputies. They make multiple entries into houses each day in which they do not shoot. So it is important to implant scenarios down here in the training environment in which they do not shoot. They make the reasoned decision to not exercise deadly force. It's just as important as in exercising deadly force.
It's great training, top notch. All right, what's the next scenario we're going to see?
The next scenario we're going to have is an active shooter in the courthouse. As everyone knows, we are responsible for the security in the circuit courthouse. Deputy Herr, once again, will be in this exercise. He's going to be walking through the circuit courthouse, approaching the main vestibule where the stairwell is when he hears shots fired, and he starts running toward the area of the stairwell, at which time there is a call given out and a description for a white male with brown hair and a handgun that's going to be in the stairwell area. Deputy Herr notices numerous bodies on the floor, and he starts to take action.
Great, let's do it. All right, let's talk to the audience about some of the important aspects of that scenario.
In that scenario, you saw with Deputy Herr that when he heard the shots, he quickly took cover once again. He confronted the adversary and immediately took action. There were 2 shots to the sternum, and then there were 2 shots to the head. Basically, they go to the sternum first because when you're dealing with active shooters, through our training knowledge and experience, we know that they prepare ahead of time to do what they're going to do. So therefore, they often have some sort of body armor on. So they take the first 2 shots to the sternum. If there is no type of reaction to where they fall to the ground or appear to be wounded in any way, they take surgical headshots to make sure they can in some way try to render the adversary incapacitated.
And a lot of times people don't understand the purpose of multiple shots. The idea is to eliminate the threat. We don't shoot to kill, we shoot to eliminate the threat. So
we
it's
shoot to incapacitate in any way we possibly can. So it's not one shot and see what happens. It's to take multiple shots to try to incapacitate.
All right, let's set up the last and final scenario. What are we going to see now?
The final scenario today involves Deputy John Sims. He is going to be in a situation where he's out serving warrants in the Brooklyn Park area, and he hears a call for an armed robbery coming out over the radio at a local restaurant. As he approaches the business, a clerk runs outside of the restaurant, advises him that the suspect saw Deputy Sims as he arrived and ran into a bathroom, and the bathroom door is still wide open. As Deputy Sims enters the restaurant and approaches the bathroom, he is carrying a Remington 870 shotgun. It's specially designed for tactical purposes with law enforcement. It has a 14-inch barrel and is very effective in close quarters combat.
Sounds good. Let's see it.
Yes, sir.
Drop the weapon! Drop the weapon!
Folks, I hope you enjoyed our show this month. I want to thank the members of the Sheriff's Emergency Response Team who put this show together today, along with our training administrator, Mr. Rex Snider. I also want to thank those that allow this show to happen every single month. First, behind the camera, Mr. Dale Boyer, the County Executive, Mr. Steve Shue, the Chief of Police for Anne Arundel County, Tim Altamari, the Annapolis City Police Chief, Mike Pristoop, and the Superintendent of the Maryland State Police, Colonel Bill Palazzi. Folks, remember, I'm Sheriff Ron Bateman. Let's keep Anne Arundel County safe. We'll see you next time on Anne Arundel's Most Wanted.